I can ask them to mute.
Okay. Yeah, it's like stop your dog barking in the background and we can hear your phone call, you know.
Yeah. We'll have some fun. If somebody starts to get inappropriate, we'll just start screaming really loud. Hey!
All right, I got 116, so I think you're right on schedule.
I was just about to say go for it. Then I saw a couple more squares pop up. So sounds good with me. I'll get started with, we'll start off slow, but then we're, if you don't mind following my lead, gonna go pretty fast then. I will pause in between different topics to see if anybody's got any questions or wants clarification on this. So I want this to be back and forth, not just me talking, because if I put it aside, 4 minutes a slide, I could talk for an hour and a half nonstop, but I'd rather not. So please do. I want this to be interactive is what I'm saying. I do have a slideshow I'm about to share with you. It's just so I can stay on schedule. And I'm going to warn you, if you're a visual person like me, it's not all that glitzy because I don't have a whole lot of photos, like none. But here we go. So yeah, the general topic is foreclosures and short sales. Now we're going to have some fun with some more acronyms, not that we have any already in our world of real estate alone. So REOs, that's abbreviated for real estate owned by the bank. They forgot about by the bank. So REOs. And then SSLs, that's not used as often, but that's abbreviated for short sale listing. Some basics right there. All right, don't worry, we're not quizzing later. I honestly couldn't decide on which cover sheet to use. A or B, A or B. Just kidding. All right, so full disclosure, I'm transparent and willing to share anything and everything I had to share with you. So if there's any of these slides you want the spreadsheet that I'll talk about later, anything at all, I ask you just to email me. Again, email me, don't put in the chat, I'm totally gonna miss it. Email me directly your request of what you would like and throw in 1 to 2 things that you learned and are going to implement. So I may say some things that may not necessarily be on foreclosures and short sales, but I would love it if I knew like, hey, thanks for this. You found this to be helpful in your business today. Super, do it. All right, so why this topic is important. So I'm not gonna lie to you, year over year, if you look at trends, short sales foreclosures, it's been trending in the downward trajectory. So it's like, well, why do we even need to know about this? Well, it's because recently there's been a rise in the forbearance / forgiveness, all right? Then there's also been short sale listings. Like I started seeing short sale listings. I'm like, whoa, what the heck is that? I haven't seen one of those in years. And then real estate owned by the bank, right? And REOs can be owned by a bank, a corporation. It can be owned by Fannie. We'll get into all those fun details. So now I'm going to give you this is my perspective. So on the rise, and I have fears of mine in today's market. Buyers are not having home inspections. I think we can all agree with that one. So what, right? No big deal. Well, what if I told you when I started in real estate, almost every single foreclosure and every single short sale, if there was not a death, a divorce, or something of a dramatic change in life, it was because they failed to have a home inspection and blamed it and wanted to give their house back to the bank because they failed to have that, say, foundation wall or walls, and it's over $40K to correct them, and it's not my responsibility as the homeowner, and the market just tanked, meaning values went from like 250, I bought my house for 250, I'm talking to you 3, 4, 5 years later, and it's like 25,000 lesser in value. That was the world when I started real estate back in 2010. And then on top of that, we got buyers paying substantially differences on low appraisals, no appraisals, no financing, all cash, overpaying potentially for homes, right? So these are actually great things that will benefit the REO and short sale market in the future, unfortunately. Any questions on that? So I did give a little bit of fear factor, but at the same time, I'm just being real with you all. All right, I'll continue on. Hopefully I don't get anything too bad in the chat. I didn't check.
No, I just put some
No,
notes in the
I just
chat.
put some notes in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, so then now, okay, so why me in the bio? So I just started letting you know. So I started back in January 2010. I did find this nice certification, which is one that you do not have to renew. You don't have to pay for. It's SFR. It's abbreviated for Short Sale and Foreclosure Resource. It looks really good if you're going on a short sale listing. And also if you're just going to start to work with banks and corporations that have foreclosures. It also is, or another one that can contribute to that is BPOR. So that's abbreviated for Broker's Price Opinion Resource. That's another certification. You do have to renew that one every year though. So I have not. I'll tell you a little bit about that. So back in my day, yeah. So how this all started actually for me, it was for investor clients. They were searching out, I would help them find short sales, foreclosures. We flip them, we'd improve them. Sometimes I'd be on the on-site job manager, a project manager, where we like make sure the contractor showed up, make sure doing the right thing. And then ultimately I got sold the property. So that was great. I'm not gonna lie though, those investors, like all of them got greedy, they got sketchy. And so I fired them or they fired me because I'm sorry, I do have to disclose that wall that you failed to fix that you knew about when we bought it, for example. I just could not live with myself. So again, I've listed short sales, foreclosures, been in the buy side, performed BPOs. That was some fast cash. So when our market starts to show up these BPOs, you can literally get a direct email or a call. They usually call themselves an asset manager. It's abbreviated for asset loss manager. And they literally say, here's an address. We want an approximate value of the property. When the market started to first tank, they were paying like $250 for an order. It literally was doing a CMA and like getting paid, and they made payment to your name, which was really weird. It wasn't to like your LLC or company. So you're supposed to claim that as income. So then there was, then they reduced it as time went on because of supply and demand. So I just thought I'd make you guys aware of these things. They're pretty cool. I've done things that are called cash for keys, which is literally like, hey, homeowner, you're in default in your mortgage and you let me in right now to take pictures and video of your home, of the inside, so we get an idea of condition. I'm gonna be back in 30 days. We're gonna give you 1.5 amount of your present mortgage. And I'm gonna give you it in the form of a check from your mortgage holder. And you need to be out of this house when I come back in 30 days. How does that sound to you? There was one time I saw a gun, not gonna lie, but they find out that you're actually there to give them good news because the alternative is sheriff shows up and says, you're out right now, and you stand there awkwardly. So I've seen some pretty heavy, crazy stuff. Also been to the courthouse to purchase homes.
Lay down. Lay down.
Told them.
Can you mute whoever has the dog?
Whoever has the dog.
It's just Joe, he got it. Love you, man. So then there's also sheriff sales. I'll just touch on those, which is at the county courthouse. Trash out cleanouts. What's nice is that things are left behind by homeowners and they've already moved out. That is property is supposed to go in the garbage, or you can like use, like I got a canoe once off of like Hampton and 35th. I have no idea and expected that, but we couldn't put a canoe in a dumpster, so I ended up with it. And then of course there's winterizing, de-winterizing for your buyers, you know, they get an accepted offer. But then there's also the good side of this. I've helped save some people in allowing them to stay in their house or bought them some time so they could make a transition. And then there's also, I've met with homeowners that are in default and they have a significant, say, job relocation, a death of a spouse, a divorce. You know, I'm doing all right, but I'm not gonna make it, or I won't clear the mortgage if I have to pay a real estate agent, you know, 6, 7, 8%. And so works out nicely when you got an investor says, you know, I'll buy it off market, improve the property, and then we're going to sell it with you. So that was just some ideas. Any questions so far, anybody? Please. This is easy. All right.
You had mentioned
So some expectations when it comes to buying REOs. REO again is real estate owned by the bank. And also I'm going to cover quickly what when buying short sales, there's tends to be an addendum SSO. I'll describe that a little bit. Also what to expect when you're listing and selling short sales, how to potentially list real estate or REOs that are owned by local banks. Okay. And the above is not exactly like an REO put together and short sales put together. I put this in, you're most likely going to have more experience buying real estate owned or foreclosures with buyers. Second most common thing that you're probably gonna get is buying short sales with buyers. And the third thing that you're probably gonna do the most of is gonna be listing short sales. So that's why they're in that order, and that's how I'm gonna cover them. And then I'll end it with how to potentially build some wealth through REOs and short sales if that interests you. Okay, best thing you know is let you know what to expect before it happens, right? That's how we keep our clients happy. So buying REOs, quick, where to find them. So there's websites out there, the Hubzu, the auction.com, HomePath, Zone.com. The list goes on, and every time one goes away, another one pops up. And then you start seeing them utilized even through MLS. They'll list their properties, for example, on Zone. And if they can't sell it themselves on their website, you may see that property on MLS, and it'll say, purchase a property through this website, not through the agent that's listing it on MLS. Until this date. Once that date comes, then it's like a normal listing. Very unique. It is kind of like the wild, wild west. So if you think things are kind of crazy right now, it gets really crazy when this happens. It's just fun. So in the MLS now, you'll have local community banks. They may just say, hey, I know you're an agent, you do well. I did get lucky in meeting some people like this. They say, hey, you sold properties in this neighborhood and we have a foreclosure threat up the road. And it's like the principal or the, some high level management says, hey, we got this property, or they're the asset loss manager at the bank. Okay. And like, I got calls and like, can you list this property? Sure. Can you kick our people out? Sure. Can you trash out, clean out? Sure. Can you carry utilities in your name? Sure. So the list goes on. There's also opportunities, not only just with local banks, but national banks. And then there's even corporate owned banks. So these are like, if I could put my finger in it, I think they're more like very healthy people that have formed a conglomerate, and the corporation is actually the actually lien holder or buys the losing asset from the bank, if that makes sense, at a discounted purchase. So like a wholesaler almost. And then there's always going to the county auction every single week and raising your hand to make a bid. That gets fun sometimes. So that's where you can find them. Big thing to know, of course, just like any other transaction, is how do you plan to finance this purchase? So you got buyers that say, I want to find that great foreclosure deal. I've been hearing that actually more and more so lately. There's no secrets, gave you a number of websites, there's more. The big thing is, do you plan to pay cash for it or finance it? Because you don't want to be showing them properties where you're like, oh, you're not gonna be able to get financing on this thing. So like, don't even bother, you need all cash on it. And then we're opposite. REOs, just like short sales, just always go in with the impression they will sell it to you as is, okay? Now, I'm not saying you don't have to have an inspection or you should skip it or anything like that. You can still have an inspection, again, but anticipate not negotiating any of the like defects or getting a closing cost credit, okay? Just anticipate it. Now, let's just say if you are buying a foreclosure and it's a finance offer specifically, you develop a relationship with that seller or seller listing agent. You have open dialogue. Hey, here's the deal. Buyers love and everything like that. But did you know, like, we'll just use the foundation because that's the easiest one. Foundation like is shot. We need excavation and beaming, not just beaming it for, $3,000-4,000. We're looking at about $10,000. Buyer will buy it, but we can't do 10. So you share that with the seller's agent. They tend to know who the asset manager or decision maker is that's, in charge of that bank-owned property. They'll share with you chances of negotiating. They'll share with you if there's any chance of it. Not only that, but like options, meaning how much of a credit. I would never expect anything to be cured though, okay? Especially when it comes to short sales. I mean, they ultimately don't have money. So how are you going to expect them to fix anything? And if they are going to do it, they're going to do it themselves, and you're not going to be happy. Okay. So if you ever do that with a foreclosure specifically, though, right? They want maximum dollar for the place. So say if it's financeable, if it's just that one thing, they have been okay. And I've had corporate owned properties where they would correct, say, the foundation. But if you're dealing with like Home Path, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac properties, no, they'll give you a credit and they'll say that's what it is. You like it or not. Okay, bye. That's just their attitude. Something else to keep in mind when you work with buyers and buying foreclosed properties, the utilities are off. If it's winterized, the buyer or you are going to pay for the de-winterization. I've seen that from $100 to like $250. And then you got to put the utilities in your name. And you got to keep the utilities on because the appraisal's got to come through. They got to see that power's on. They got to see that there's water into the property. So there's a little bit of a holding cost there. So again, if your buyer is going to be financing it, these are just some notes that I've always learned through time is make sure it's got hot water, not just water, has to have hot water, a toilet that actually works and is not leaking to the subfloor and the subfloor is soft. Make sure the water is safe. So if it's on a well, the lender most likely will say, hey, we need a safe drinking water sample. And then sometimes you can slip by with conventional financing and the underwriters don't ask if you need to have, or they don't say you have to have a septic report. You don't have to have a well test. You don't have to have a water test. So conventional gets a little more lenient than FHA is what I'm saying. Any questions, anyone?
Hey, CJ, it's Julia.
Yeah.
What about back taxes?
That's always a hit and miss. I've been told, don't worry about it. You get the preliminary title policy, and then you see things listed on there for back judgments. I always say, well, okay, not always having a relationship with the seller's agent, but with the title rep who's doing it. Call the title company. Hey, are you taking responsibility for these liens and judgments, or am I the buyer, or my buyer's going to? Because they usually will file for settlement papers and have a letter of satisfaction if it's on there. Because yeah, it's been scary. I've even seen it where foreclosures on the title searches still has the original first lien holder and the second lien holder. And it's like, wait a minute, this is a foreclosure. It's not a short sale. Not supposed to be any liens on this property. So yeah, so when you get your preliminary title and when you're signing your title, look at whatever's on there. And if you have no idea to read them, because like, honestly, I'm going to tell you, I would say, so I'm in this business for 11 years. I did not know how to read a title until about 2 years ago. So just straight up ask the title person, what the heck is this saying? What am I going to potentially be responsible for? And then you make an educated decision. I've had people who were like such a sweet deal of a buy that there was going to be like $2,000-3,000 worth of like past liens on it from like people. I remember one was a landscaper. Buyer's like, you know what? The deal's way worth more than $3,000 to me. I'll take care of that. I'm like, wow, okay. I wouldn't, but whatever. Guess it must have been very beneficial to say yes to that. Does that answer your question, Julia?
Yeah.
That was memory lane.
Yeah. Thank you.
I would say the same too, even in like a traditional sale, right? For your sellers, for your buyers, look at that title. Make sure they understand it. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else before I continue? All right. So there's more so on the buying side again with real estate owned by the bank. There's that what if. There's always a loose missing handrail. Always. I swear to God. Almost 9 out of 10. So yes, I do, and I don't carry much, if any, anymore. But I literally had a toolbox always in the back of my vehicle, literally with the screw gun, long wooden screws, all these things. Because by the time you ask, like a bank's not going to fix it. And if you just had an appraiser come through and say you need to fix this, like somebody's got to do it. It's got to be you or the buyer that's got to do it. And you don't tell the bank because they don't want to know. But they don't care as long as your financing gets approved. So it's, it's a fine line you're walking between on these sometimes is what I'm saying. There's been, I don't know, countless times even where the appraiser comes to the property. It's usually FHA. There's a trip hazard on the walkway to the front door. Literally one slab sink a little bit. It's the winter time. So if anybody's trying to do mud jacking right now, they just started doing it like this week. Like people, they literally punch out in October, fly south and don't come back till April. I swear to God. A lot of mud jackers are retired concrete workers that want to do this for fun hobby money. So there's Quickcrete. You can mix up real quick in a bucket. And you just buy the bucket. I tell the buyer to bring over a refreshment, and we're going to fix this trip hazard ourselves. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to chip and break off within a year, but it passes. Same goes for a garage door with peeling paint. I've had entire garage doors painted like literally in January or February, and like go to visit them in July, and it's like, oh, you need a new garage door. But it passed appraisal on the revisit. Same thing goes with trim around a garage service door, a basement trim. Heck, the one that always got me was like, why are you picking at the, garbage garden shed in the backyard? Like, really? Yeah, it's got peeling paint. Really? But whatever, not my decision. So of course, with any of these things, you want to get them done as soon as possible. So that way you get the FHA or the appraisal for the conventional loan, get them to revisit the property, and hopefully just once, because if they come back again, they're going to charge the buyers. And you want it done as soon as possible because you want to be ready to close on time. Asking for an extension, it's not always in the best interest when you're dealing with a foreclosure. They usually tell you like, no, that's too bad. And there you are, imagine this, 30 days later with your buyers, they put their earnest money down, they've spent for a home inspection, they pay for an appraisal, they may even pay for a third revisit of the appraisal, and then the lender goes, yeah, you better close on time, or the seller says, you better close on time, or we're just gonna put it back in the market for someone else. It's happened to me. It's fun, but typically on a foreclosure, expect closing to be 45 days from the accepted offer. That's pretty typical. Okay. There's some scary things on there. I just wanted we'll call it failing forward, learning from our failures. So I have been sued more than once. Sometimes it gets a little entertaining. For example, if you're dealing with some of these foreclosures, they have their own offer to purchase. They don't use the Wisconsin offer. They use their own. You need an initial on these lines that are like this big, and they're like in the middle of like paragraphs, and the buyers need to initial it. It has to be a blue pen, not black pen. I've already had documents sent back because it's a black pen and they need a blue pen. And then if you miss one line, your buyer doesn't get the house because that one line they missed, and you have no idea how to read this offer more than they do. Yeah, somebody's getting blamed. So I've been blamed for that. And I was like, I told you, I have no idea what we're doing here. It's fun. That's why I have E&O insurance. And then there's so that was the foreign forms. I told you about the not closing in time because of the lender appraisal. Sometimes you get them dragging their feet. And again, they blame me when I was like, hey, come on, I'm on your side. So it happens. So we just do our best to prevent that from ever being a downside. Yeah, moving on. So buying a short sale and selling. So I kind of lumped some of this together because it's very similar to a real estate owned by a bank when you're dealing with a short sale. Again, they're out of money. Don't ask them to fix stuff. You find them on MLS if they're a short sale. And some questions you want to ask when you start getting into, writing an offer on one or on the selling side is a hardship letter. So that's probably one of the biggest pieces to the puzzle of buying a short sale or selling a short sale. Hardship letter and its supporting documents, meaning like they ask for bank statements, payroll, because they literally want to see that, okay, you legit have a hardship and you cannot afford this. Let's just say it was dual incomes, right? You and your spouse just bought your house today, and unfortunately one of you passed away. Could be months from today, a year from today, let's say. You're able to make the payments on a single income, but like you're not exactly making like healthcare payments or child support payments or childcare, I'm sorry, because spouse is gone. So you can afford it, but like just barely, and there's nothing left. Well, there are people that say that's their excuse when legitimately it's because they made a bad purchase and are trying to just get this off of their books, give my house back to the bank. I've heard that countless times. Like, you can't just do that. So that's what I mean by a hardship letter supporting documents. Hardship letter is usually going to have a death of a spouse. I've seen it both natural and self-inflicted. That gets really interesting when you go to list a short sale because the spouse just, excuse my language, blew his brains away in the bedroom. That was an interesting one. Then there was always, the divorce, nothing you do about that. And then there's even some very sad times where this really motivated me to want to really, really help people that legit had a hardship. This was actually some friends of mine. The neighbor molested their child, who was the sitter. I'm like, this is a new hardship letter for me. And yes, you should be forgiven this short sale like that. So stuff like that comes up and you just got to be there to just be caring and want to help. So next good questions then to ask is, hey, is there a pointed acid? I always call them loss manager because that's what they are. And if this is the first one that's on the case or if it's the fifth one, you're going to find a lot of times they promote these people or they get rid of them and they replace them. And then you got to start the whole process all over again. Resubmitting the hardship letter. It has to be specifically uploaded to this account between this time and this time. And bank statement, you can't put two bank statements together. You have to individually upload them. So yes, it's fun. Anything before, any questions, anything, anybody has anything on before I go into the next part?
Hey, CJ, when you're talking about short sales, buying them, talk about weird echo. The experience with the price and back to you and communication back to you and how long it takes.
Ooh, yes. No, this is good. Yep. So timing and price negotiations. You're right. Definitely had the timing in this. So I'm just gonna, here, it's actually the bottom of the slide. So very good question. So how long? So quite typically when you make an offer in a short sale, you really want to put in there, attach the addendum. Many of us call it short sale offer to purchase addendum, something like that. And it literally says that, hey, we're going to turn our earnest money. We may or may not have our home inspection, but then after that, we're going to put everything on hold. So we're not going to have the appraisal ordered. We're not going to pay for that. We're not going to have the, get locked into a rate because we have to get approval from the bank that they will approve of the short sale. So quite typically you'll write out, so foreclosure, you'll close in 45 days. I would say at least 90 days or later if you're writing on a short sale. So if you do write 90 days, you put for approval, you put 120 days or sooner for closing. If that makes sense. I've had many times where the 90 days for approval has been extended another 90 days. So it's 180 days, a half a year to get a short sale approved. And then we'll close like the month later. It happens. Why would anybody ever want to wait that long? They tend to be the really good deals, right? And that's only why. It gets a little tricky though, is that, I think it's on my next slide, but say you got a buyer, they're committed to buying this property. They're pre-approved, ready to finance that, say $250,000 house. They're locked into this. They've been waiting for 90 days for response, and day 34 after the accepted offer, oh my gosh, we'd love to see this other house and make an offer on it. It's like, well, technically, I shouldn't ethically be having you committed to do different purchases unless you can afford it. So if you're on the listing side of a short sale, you want to make sure those buyers are in tune. Like you have weekly follow-ups, like you guys didn't buy a Jeep, did you? Or a new car? You guys didn't go and do something crazy like that. Like it's way more work. And the best part is they reduced your commission almost 99.9% of the time. Oh, it's fantastic. Even though you're doing like 16 times the amount of work. And then it gets even more fun about pricing. So at the top of this, I was saying, all right, who priced the house? Did you get to perform the BPO or did some other agents perform the BPO? Was there one even done? Did you just do a CMEA and consult with the sellers before the bank said you should do a short sale? Great, what's that number? Because the bank legitimately, they almost every single time, they have their bottom line that has to be met. So if your purchase price is, awesome, you're gonna, but after paying full commission, if it's below what they're willing to write off, then they say, we'll approve the short sale, but you're gonna reduce your commission. So that way we get our number. So that's where the pricing can be renegotiated. I've had sometimes where the purchase price was so low, the bank says it needs to go higher if you want to keep your commission, and which works great if buyers are up for it, because then both parties get their full commission, but that seldomly happened.
CJ?
Oh, that sounds happy. Yes, please.
CJ? I always thought foreclosures. I always thought foreclosures took a lot longer.
A foreclosure will take, usually most of them are done through home path, at least through my experience. Some are just traditionally listed through MLS, the corporate owned. I think it's the expectations of the seller's agent. So I've had some, like to your point, Julie, where they're like, oh, I thought it's going to take us like 60 days to get ready to close. I'm like, no, title can do it. We're all set. So it depends on where title's at.
Okay.
It would be your determining factor. Yeah. Yeah. If you don't mind, let me use a good example. This is a short sale, right? 2 lien holders couldn't get it approved. The one would not release. It then went to the county sheriff's sale, like the next week, sold on the sheriff's sale, back to the primary lien holder, which was like Bank of America, if I remember correctly. Then it was on MLS like the following week, right? So it didn't even get time for title to be transferred the first time. And then it's already been supposed to be done the second time because it released the second lien holder. And then it's on the market and then it was actually a listing of mine. And then it went to the sheriff's sale. And then like my buyer got outbid by the Bank of America. And then my buyer actually bought it from the listing agent on MLS. And yeah, we actually had a delay in closing because they couldn't give us a conveyable title. I think it was a merchantable something title. Now we're going back to continuing ed. Do not mark my words. Like it was something along that lines though. So yeah, Julia, that could happen.
Okay.
Has that been your experience? Or did you have something different?
I always stay clear of them because I always stay clear of them because
Yeah.
But I'm not afraid of them anymore after listening to you.
Oh, good. Because you shouldn't, because they tend to be the most beneficial ones. And no joke, many of the clients that I've had repeat with me more than once, twice, that was their first purchase. It was a foreclosure. It was a short sale. It was what was affordable in that time. And if you can only imagine, if our prices continue to keep going up, and then next thing you know, our interest rates go up, the affordability index is like not there, meaning normal people can't afford a normal safe house, but they can afford a fixer-upper foreclosure, which I think is why everybody's like, show me a fixer-upper, because that's all I can afford. I'm willing to put in the sweat. And the same thing applies to short sales if they're willing to wait. So that's the question on the biggest thing is waiting or not when it comes to short sales. Are they living with parents, or are they in a long-term commitment at a rental, or are they month to month? Anything else? Okie dokie. All right, if you guys ever saw my secrets, I got a time in the bottom left corner. We are right on time. It's awesome. All right, so some more about buying short sales and the selling side. So I already shared with you, it's not suggested to go and work with buyers and get an accepted offer on one short sale and then go get and write another offer on another one, like unless you can afford it. That just ethically is incorrect. Do expect some buyers to get turned off by you for being ethical and going and writing an offer with another agent on another house. And then that's kind of a material fact that you probably should share with the seller's agent of the property that you're in contract with. Yes, this can be fun. Okay. Now there's some other fun things. So there's always this family member that says, hey, let me bail you out and let me buy your house as a short sale. The bank has you sign an affidavit, says that you have no relationship to your buyer. Makes the seller do that, makes the agent do it that they're not aware of. So it's a big no-no. Let's just say if you yourself, unfortunately, let's just say you lost a spouse, lost a job relocation, and you're short funds now, right? Let's say you just bought it today. We're not in a market that's got improving values or increasing values. Could you sell to your parents or family member? Nope. But you can sell to somebody who is not related to you. And I've even seen some very creative ways. So I've had investors that that are related to someone, they couldn't buy it. So they actually have their friend buy the house. And then all of a sudden at closing, the title was conveyed over into the title of the corporation or the company, LLC. And there's a silent investor who happens to be the family member. So there's tons of fun stuff that happens here. And if title's on here, they're probably like, yeah, don't even talk about that, CJ. Like, that's just not good. So I'm just being honest with you. These are things you see. Some things, you got to raise your voice when you can, if you have some morals and ethical responsibility, like as I do. And there's other times where it's like, it's too late, nothing I can say or do to help fix this. So it happens. Yeah. All right. So if you do list a short sale, I would suggest doing a title search. Okay. Making sure and confirming exactly how many lien holders are on there. So they got a primary mortgage. Did they do a refi or did they do a home equity line of credit? So that would be a line of second line if it's a home equity line of credit. There are times when there's a third even, and they bought that really nice looking boat and then put the money in the house. It's great, even on the second one. So you get the account numbers, you get what they say they owe. Title does a search. If it jives, you're good. Many times you're going to find people just aren't smart with their money, unfortunately, or they blatantly lied to you. Oh, I didn't know about that second mortgage or whatever it is. It's like, hey, okay. So yeah, there's that. So now when it comes to short sales, sometimes they will prove a short sale, and they've made the homeowner, in one of the cases I remember, take a private loan for $8,000. They had to pay it back, and they went through a successful short sale. So now why would somebody want to do that, right? Take $8,000, go through a successful short sale. Well, it's because, and again, we can't give financial or legal advice, but it does a lot less damage to your credit than a foreclosure. And then many times you find people that get denied their short sale, becomes a foreclosure. They can't file the foreclosure in their bankruptcy hearing until the foreclosure's been closed, like close out their file. So there's a lot of fun stuff to that. So you can get creative. Stephanie asked that question, like what happens with price, and like it's still not over yet, is what I'm saying. Like you negotiate with the second lien holder. Hey, I know they owe you $16,000. Here's the deal. You take half and approve the short sale? Oh no, you won't. Well, okay. How about you just forgive all the $16,000 because they owe $130,000 to the primary mortgage holder? No, we can't do that. Well, then you probably should take something. Otherwise, this is going to end up being a foreclosure. And then what happens through our government, which is good and bad, the second lien holder usually never, ever gets paid. The first will. And that's why the primary is like, nope, we are not reducing what you owe us. We'd rather see us get foreclosed on, and the government repays us. And if you don't know it, all of us, we pay our tax dollars. There's a small percentage of all of our taxes, our private taxes, that goes to a big government, Fannie and Freddie, who back our loans and buy these foreclosures from, say, Wells Fargo, say, Bank of America. They then write off that losing asset, sell the house pretty much to the government, and that's how we get a home path listing. Hope I didn't lose you there.
CJ,
Okay.
CJ is yours.
Please.
But, one I had, and I remember the title came to me that there was something about second lien holder get a certain, I think it was like 6% up to 10 grand, or maybe like 10%, not to be less than. So basically the second lien holder, like eat it. and take whatever essentially, but no, it's been a few.
Yeah. Was there a question in there? I'm sorry. I was thinking too so deep on
I
this.
don't know if more detailed information. Heard that too.
Yeah, there was an estimated net sheet. I remember back in the day for short sales, and they had ratios to your point on the primary, on the secondary, to the sale price, and it was to be fair to the primary, secondary. I'm thinking it was something to do behind the scenes, like I was sharing with you, between Fannie and Freddie, or home, them buying back loans. I'm thinking it had something to do with that, because you're right. There was a percentage that if it fell in there, that's like what you should expect. But it wasn't always promised. I mean, there's been times where it's like, this is slam dunk. This is a win-win-win-win for everybody. Like, you're going to get your ratio. You're going to get your ratio. I'm going to get paid. Hell, I even discount my commission. Sure. Yep. We're good. We're going to close. And then all of a sudden it's like, nope, we're not approving it because like some missing documentation or something. And then it's on the sheriff's sale. So, yeah. So you put a lot of heart into it. And it works. It's really fun too when you get about like 10 or more of these going on, because then you got to like check in them every week, and you got to call them old school. That's how they prefer. And you literally wait on hold for 30 something minutes, sometimes over an hour. It was fantastic. I'd be showing houses on hold. All right. Anything else? Anybody? Pretty good cause before I move on? Okay, I want to get to the part that I really enjoy. It gets really even interesting. So I once had a client name. This is just an example. We all know who Michael Jordan is. So literally just somebody famous like that, literally first name was that person's last name. And so, oh my gosh, that was always so hilarious. Every single week I'd call in to say, hey, what's the status of this, loan policy number, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh my gosh, is this really Michael Jordan? Like, oh my God, no, it's not. Do you think Michael Jordan would be having a short sale? So that was a sidebar tangent, just funny stuff. So I just try to have fun in this. Thinking back, I feel there was more short sales denied than were approved. So why would you spend such time? I've had now folks that unsuccessfully and successfully had a short sale. And they've all, I wouldn't say all, but a lot of them said, hey, CJ, you hustled, you did your thing, and you tried your hardest to help us out. And the bank just said, no way, Jose. We are now in a financially better position. If it was forgiven, usually it's 3 years later. If you had a short sale successful, you could buy. That's cool, right? So all of a sudden these people are coming back going like, I already got their trust, I guess is what I'm saying. And, won a client then. I didn't get paid then, but I definitely did get paid the next time, which was 3 years later. And then they sold that house again 3 years later and purchased another one, which is usually a bigger one when your family's growing. So I want to share with you, like, this is why you do it. You're not only doing it for the heart, like to help people, but it's also like that long-term client, a forever client, as we label them. Also, a lot of buyers come out to those sweet deals, short sale, foreclosure. It's insane. I mean, you think a lot of buyers now, yeah, try doubling that, if not more. And they all have a budget that's about 1/3 of what you got right now. It was great. So as our market continues to keep going away, that's nice, but unfortunately there will be a little bit of a reset. I just want to make sure all prepared on that. That's when you'll start to see things like home buying tax credits, some stimulus money putting out there, right? I mean, not to get political, but they might have been smart about this, that they use like discounted what you owe on the stimulus money, like it comes in, and for some of us, like these PPP plans and so forth, like some of this is actually taxed income, and then you got to pay it back. So what if you didn't have to pay that back? People would be more inclined if you used it to say purchase a home. Just an idea. So that's where things got creative back in the day, when there was forgiven tax credits of $4,000 and $8,000, but only if you stayed in the house for 5 years. So fun times. So now I'm not gonna spend too much time on this, but there is a chance that you could like work with like the local community banks, the state banks, get to know their higher ups and say, hey, I'm sure you got foreclosures. They got them today. They got them every day. Thing is, you got to develop this relationship like on the front end, because once they find like an agent they love and trust and work with all the time, you're just going to be fed these foreclosures. So I wouldn't say I got to the habit or the caliber. I'll just use his first name, Brian. He literally was like, everything was a foreclosure, like in the area was listed with it. I'm like, dude, how'd you do that? He's like, oh, I just got to know the right people at the right time. I'm like, wow, that was amazing. So I'm suggesting that, like, you literally put yourself out there, sales hat, right? Hi, I'm so-and-so, guy foreclosures, give me a try. And you got to keep visiting them. So, you know, it's almost like another 36 touch. And then once you get through that, there's also online sites that they'll throw you at. If it's a state bank or if it's a big national bank and you register, you start doing BPOs for them. Again, those are brokers' price opinions. You get paid for producing a CMA and potentially being the go-to listing agent then for that property. And then also when you are told to do those orders, you kind of know who is looking to either fix their loan modification, or they're just totally like checked out, like they need to sell now. When you do get registered on these BPOs, it is their server or their platform is treated very much like how I hear appraisers are. Literally, it's property address and job order, claim it or not. So when the BPOs, this is just something else to be creative on. So the payment for each BPO kept going down and down and down. And eventually I was like, this is not worth my time. But I still had access to the hundreds of BPOs that need to be done. Those homeowners are usually in trouble. Grabbed their addresses, went door knocking, said, hey, I know that you're in trouble with your mortgage. What are your plans? Where are you going? That's how I found most of my off-market deals for my investors. People weren't always very nice to you, I'm not going to lie, because, you know, you just said, hey, look, you're in default on your mortgage. Can I help you? Oh, yeah. They're usually happier in the morning, not in the evening. There's usually a bottle in hand too, if you come in the evening. But yeah, some little formalities I ask for when you do register to these sites is a W-9, your insurance policy, which is E&O, and then also it's like a resume. You literally like list like what your capabilities are, what your experience is, and then they usually say, hey, what zip codes would you like to be considered for? So heads up on that. Anything? Anybody got any questions? Okay. Because the likelihood of somebody doing this is very, very small, but you can take a lot of market share if you did it. All right, so this is the fun part about building wealth. So this can be for either your buying client or even yourself. You became an investor, because that's what happened to me. I had a bunch of investors and they got shady at me. So I'm like, what is stopping me from doing this? So you figure out what it is for you. If it's not you that's the buyer, who's your client, right? Are you looking at 4 families, 16 units, single families, duplexes? Condos even, that's a little tricky. Some single family homes on the upper end, or are you looking at just some, you know, basic 1.5 bath, 3-bedroom homes, we'll say in the Northwest Milwaukee, tend to go for 125,000, and rents are very profitable. So you got to know your client. Education and experience are going to be your 2 biggest things. So educate yourself. I mean, it's kind of weird, but some of the stuff they put on TV is like, gives you, helps you dream. Then when you see things like home investors, you know, they have like training programs that you pay for. You even hear, I think his name is Val or whatever, TV star, you know, flip this house, come to my seminar, give me money. They will show you like their process of how to like buy properties and flip them for sale. Or I can just give you the lowdown, like I did, is experience working with investors. Think Like a CEO is a nice podcast list too. Read books like, you know, Tony Robbins on money. And then of course, you know, our own local famous people, right? The Hold book, the Flip book, right? Some other ideas. They'll get you educated on what to expect. A lot of people refer to Bigger Pockets and their rule. They have this thing called the 1% rule. I'm just going to touch on it and be honest with you. So like what the 1% rule is, and there's nothing wrong with it. That is the end goal. Like what it means if you bought $100,000 property with improvements, like, can you get $1,000 a month? It's 1%, right? You bought a $200,000 house. Can you get $2,000 in rent? after improvements. So you can do that in certain markets. I specifically identified my market, my niche, but I know of like an investor that will say, pick up North Side Milwaukee, $125,000 house, right? It's fair, it's average, 3 bedrooms, bath and a half, 2-car garage. You get 1,200 plus for rent, sometimes up to 1,600. That exceeds the 1% rule. Now that's where they like to go. And I tend to hear they have a bit more turnover than I do. So where are you winning, right? You got 2 months vacancy and you're making, say, $300 more than myself, or would you rather have no vacancy and, you see what I'm saying there? So it's up to you and what you prefer. I've had, 4 families where everybody is a neighbor and they hate each other and they steal each other's laundry detergent soap and they do crazy things like that. So then it's like, wow, is this really worth having a 4 family? Say they pay you, you profit roughly $200 a month. That's $800. Like, great. But what if you can buy a single family home with low turnover, meaning always rented out, right? No headaches, like which is better? So that's been my direction. It's always been single family homes. It's usually tends to be the fixer upper. We make it beautiful, like granite, quartz. Sometimes it's better than my own house, but it's usually typical 1,200 square foot ranch that's in the suburbs in Washington, Waukesha County. So years ago, I talked about that 1% rule. I was a 0.82 when we started. Now values to rent, it's about 0.85 right now. So just to be real with you, I mean, I'd love to get to the 1% rule, but I like to be comfortable with who I'm dealing with. However, high income earners do sometimes destroy your properties too. Does everybody follow me okay? Is there any questions on this? Has anybody heard of the 1% rule? Possibly listened to Bigger Pockets podcast? Okay, cool. I got some head nodding. That's cool. Cool. All right. The next thing I do, just as you do now, you should have allied resources, right? The carpet person, the hardwood floor refinisher, or the flooring contractor. They can give you an estimate of like average price per square foot for this material. So that way, when you go into a property, you're like, yep, we need a kitchen. You measure real quick, take note of it on your journal. Bathroom floor, yep, take a quick, measurement of it. And then you can like literally leave there and like go through all these things. And like, I actually have a spreadsheet. It literally says like, it has everything that I've ever had to come up with as when we flip a property. Just say, oh, don't forget about this. Like, okay, dummy me. I don't know how I did this one time. This place was filled with stuff, right? Trash out totally. And we bought it as is, great price. And all of a sudden, like working all the numbers. Then all of a sudden, like, is that the second huge dumpster we filled? And we need like another 2. I'm like, oh, that's great. So dumpsters are roughly $600 a pop for the huge ones. It's like, well, great. That was $2,400 that I forgot to put in the equation. So there's a line that says dumpster and how many. So if anybody is interested in that, it's nothing special. It's just all of a sudden like things you think about every time you go on a property. And so what you do with that, you put together a list of cost of improvements. So we initially, my wife and I, because I had her support, but I was a driver in this, we flip and sell them, right? Average like gross was 10, 15,000 bucks. Seems all great. I wasn't swinging a hammer. When I was swinging a hammer, the numbers would be much greater. Thing is, as a real estate agent, you go to sell that property and anything is not right, they are looking to blame you because you're the one that did the work. So I no longer swing hammers. So there's the flip and sell and there's a flip and hold that you can compare the two. I mean, they all have insurance carrying costs, taxes you got to think of. If it's on well, softener, salt, and let's just say it's really hard water where it stains all the new like tubs and sinks, well, then you're going to want to get an iron curtain as well and possibly a water softener. And then short-term mortgage on it. So you compare these two things, okay? And then, of course, flip and sell, there's costs associated with selling a house, as you know, right? There's the net proceeds sheet. So legit, like you do a net proceeds sheet for yourself. If you are able to do so and you find it's fit based on your financial advisor saying, hey, decline your personal income for selling your own property. That might be something to at least evaluate with your accountant or whoever knows knows your financial stuff. But yeah, so once you get through the commission title, just like a normal net proceeds, you come up with a subtotal. We literally take that subtotal and we subtract the cost of improvements, any other holding costs, and then the one number, if anybody's ever had a lid performed on them through KW, if anybody's ever done the advanced coaching of Life by Design charts, they always say, or when we're doing our own goal planning, if you guys ever recall, like we don't just talk about GCI, but it's always too like, what is it you want to net? So we take in consideration the taxes that you have to pay on your gross income. So that's a number a lot of investors forget about. And so don't forget about that. And then that'll ultimately produce your net dollar, what you'll actually make. So again, you want to be very specific at your cost of improvements. If I can give you any advice, anything at all, and then even put in a little buffer for something you forgot about. And then of course, things do happen. Thankfully, insurance helped us on this one, but now we had to claim that. So like legitimately, we just finished with a property. It was our last one we flipped to sell. And a freaking tree. We had a tornado go through it, a freaking boom. And I'm like, neighbors all call me. I come over there, I'm like, yep, that new roof needs a new roof now. Oh, is that great? So you always got to put in consideration like that. So next thing you know, we were supposed to put that place on the market. I think it was like the following week or so. And it was put off for 3 months because, you gotta finish up the project. So next thing you know, that added 3 months worth of holding costs. That was interesting. Then after that, that was a shake up of going, all right, this is just, again, personal opinion. We, as self-employed, we don't got 401k match or anything like that. So this is what we've done for ourselves to be our 401k is what I'm saying. So we buy them, we flip them, we get renters in there with very little turnover. And like, I don't talk to them until it's time to renew the lease. And that's it. They automatically deposit their payments and it works out great. Some other notes, if you're looking at the screen, it's just simply what saved a lot of these people that are still, buying properties and show off that they're doing very well. See how they're doing about 16 months into it. You find out all of a sudden the tax man catches up to them. They didn't take in that consideration, get sloppy, get greedy. And then unfortunately they go back to just slinging homes because, lost their focus, we'll say. So, but what's nice and helping out a lot of people that aren't doing too well is these low interest rates makes up the difference for your next purchase, makes it more affordable. Of course, our market itself is naturally improving in values, so it helps as well if you're going to buy and sell. And then rents, they continue to rise. So it helps out with those who are buying, holding, and renting because rents continue to rise like insane amount. It's just like our values of our houses. Questions? All right, I'm gonna give a big plug to the Ruffalos. They are, they know their stuff when it comes to short sales, to be completely honest with you guys. So if you ever like are like, you know what, I got a short sale, don't really want to deal with it. And if they need a quick investment buyer, sure, you should give me a call. Or if you ever want some consultation, sure. But if you really want some expertise on this, I'm gonna tell you the Ruffalo team, they're phenomenal. I did get his permission to announce them, so it's not a surprise. Anything at all, anyone? Okay, cool. That's about all I got. Not too bad in time, right? I want to see faces. Hi. Uh-oh, Stephanie. I'll ask you to unmute.
Okay, sorry. I wasn't looking at it because I was typing Gabe and Janet's information in the chat for them.
Thanks.
But you guys, I know he gave a ton of information, so maybe you're just like in overload. But I thought that there would be some questions. Did any of you guys write down in the PC program, did you write down questions yesterday? And were those all answered? No questions. Wow, you guys are shy.
Does that, I hope confidence went up on foreclosures and short sales.
Brandy, go ahead.
This was like my first time really listening to anything about short sales and foreclosures. I mean, and I just didn't know a lot or questions that I should ask. But I guess one that's jumping out at me is, if you list a short sale or foreclosure, do you have to buy it?
No. No.
I guess I missed that part. Sorry.
No, sorry.
But what CJ was saying though on the foreclosure is he, as the listing agent, had carrying costs. So he was putting the We Energies bill in his name on properties where they didn't winterize the home. So he was paying that and he got paid, reimbursed at the closing. But he had to be sure.
Not always.
I know. You had to be sure to keep very good track of all of those bills and submit them to the title company. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on short sales, I mean, I had one, CJ, back in the day. It took a year. I was with Bank of America and Bank of America came back, you know, and I don't know, I think I did the CMA on it and said, hey, it should be 100,000, right? And they came back and said, we need 123,460 to make this work. So these poor clients who sat around for like 9-10 months waiting went, what? And the bank just said, hey, here's how much we're owed. Then we have to pay the 2 realtors. Then we have back taxes. And that's it. This is our number. So when people think, oh, I'm going to get a deal and I'm going to buy a short sale, one, short sale does not mean quick, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean cheap, because wherever they got their BPO at versus where the listing agent put the price at, the buyer comes in and says, well, but this needs basement work and it needs whatever. It doesn't matter. This is the dollar amount that the bank is going to release that at, unless they get it back in foreclosure and then they hold it and it hasn't sold for like 9 months on their foreclosure listing. Then they're going to start to drop that price. But it's all based on like this algorithm and, you know, their stuff. They got 300 files sitting on their desk. They're sitting in Texas or in Chicago, wherever. And they're just like, yeah, we don't care. We're not in a hurry. And buyers always think, oh yeah, they're really motivated. They have all these foreclosures and they just want to unload them. Nope. Deep pockets.
So is that a requirement? Are you supposed to put the utilities and everything in your name if you're listing it?
No, not necessarily. That would be if you are hired by the bank, we'll just use them, or the corporation, as you become the property maintenance manager and the selling listing agent at the same time. They may ask you to do that. It's actually that happened quite typically when there was a national bank. The local community bank, they would keep things on, because like the vice president would like live like, you know, town over and pop in just to check on the property. So it wasn't like forced on you, but it's just, if you start playing the REO game where you're listing them for like national banks and like you're their go-to person, they just hands off. They don't want to do anything. They just want to know, hey, sell it. This is what you need to ask. Get us an offer and go from there. But in order to get it, say, sold and it's a financeable property, right? Again, if it's financeable, because you see it, like if this is the water's on and everything works, well then yeah, you're going to turn electricity. Yeah, you're going to get the water turned on at the curb stop, and then you carry that cost, as Debbie said, till it does sell. Because when you do that, at least back in that market, it would sell. It's just a matter of when. And so once it does sell, then you just throw that lien on there onto title. And yeah, sometimes the buyer doesn't like that because they're not going to assume responsibility for that or pay more for it. And then sometimes you forgive some of that. So again, that's a whole nother, like, it literally is a whole nother like division, let's call it. I partnered up with an agent that was like in this, and they started getting so busy. They're like, I don't have time to go do these rekeys or these cash for keys. You know, like you have like 36 orders. That means 36 properties got to go to, and they all got to be done in 2 days.
Oh, man.
And so if you don't do it, they're going to start passing that business on to someone else. So he didn't want to lose that business. So he employed myself, another agent, and then we started cold listing properties. And then eventually, you know, found some other asset managers and just, hey, take care of this. And then that's when I found that canoe in Hampton. Some other
Do you
fun
still
stuff.
have the canoe?
Yes, it's actually my favorite canoe. I once had 3 canoes. That's the best of the 3, so I kept that one and sold one of them already. Gonna sell another one this summer. Don't need that many. Kind of. Tangent, Canoe the Cooney. I run it. It's always that first Saturday in June. We canoe 6.5 miles from Freeze Lake down to Ox and Cats for some refreshments. Takes more than 3 hours. Cool. But at the end of this, I hope everybody's got some confidence, just some knowledge on short sales, foreclosures, some other like, you know, quivers you can put into your packet of arrows, right? Just so that you're aware of it. So yeah, you know, occasionally you may go to a listing appointment and you find out lost a spouse, divorce, just purchased their house, they have no money, and there's your short sale. So that's we're gonna start seeing some of that first when it comes to the sell side, is what I foresee, and then on the other side will be on buy side. Foreclosures, just because they never attempted the short sale, because the agent they spoke to, if they spoke to someone, they had no idea what a short sale was. That's been my experience.
Thank you for all of this, CJ. I appreciate it.
Welcome.
It was a great slide deck. I'm sure everyone's going to reach out and ask for a copy of it so that if they didn't take fast enough notes, they can just kind of read through again and be reminded.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Mhm. All
I
right.
want you all to be ready, because I'm sure if, you know, you ask me for some help, I give help in return, you know, whether it works out or not. I mean, it's not always about just today. What's to come in the future.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thanks so much for your time, CJ.
Yeah, yours as well. This helps me out. We'll be ready for this market when it shifts again.
There you go. All right. Take care, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.